The following presentation was given at the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Tupelo in Tupelo, Mississippi. All are welcome to join us on Sundays at 11 a.m. at 1301 Marshall Street in Tupelo.
So, good morning. My beautiful wife and daughter came with me this morning, and Tamar is always there for me to bounce ideas and thoughts off of. And that's part of why being a preacher's wife is hard, I think. Because in the middle of an ordinary day, I can turn to her and say, I want to say this. How could I go about that? And she will have some insight that helps me figure out exactly what I should say. I want to express my immense gratitude to y'all for what you did for me 2 months ago. It was magnificent, incredible, and breathtaking. You ordained me 2 months ago, and I still can't quite get over it. There were 2 ceremonies. One was here on March 31st, and one was in Memphis on April the 1st. In addition to all of the kind words, accolades, and encouragement, every single time I talk to or see Bob, he blesses me and my ministry. And all of y'all have supported me in countless ways, especially the people on the ordination committee who put up with an incredible amount of work. So it is therefore my profound honor and joy to be with you this morning. My highly intelligent wife also warned me that I should let y'all know I cry easily. It's true. She says, Edie cries every day. And although that could be a slight exaggeration, it's not by much. My topic today is the resurrection fern, which I brought with me in this jar, and we'll pass that around later. And partly the reason I wanted to talk about that is because we lost my wife's sweet father 2 months ago. The very morning that you were blessing me, he was passing away. And he was very dear to me, and he loved me the way that my own father never could. He was born in New Orleans, and he lived there most of his life. He was sarcastic and funny and absolutely brilliant. He loved to talk about politics, and he and I could spend at least an hour talking about current events, having a wonderful time. More than anything, he was proud of his daughter Tamar and his granddaughter Phoenix. He told me they're his legacy and to continue to protect them as he knew that I would. So I'm speaking today in his honor. We went down for the funeral the week after my ordination, and we saw all of these big, fluffy, vibrant green ferns all over New Orleans, all over the big oak trees that kind of tower over the streets. You know what I'm talking about if you've ever been there. And we said, it's funny, why hadn't we noticed these big fluffy ferns before? So we'd seen this brownish scaly stuff on the trees, like an extra vine or a layer of bark, and we didn't think anything of it. It kind of blended in. It looked like weeds or dead vines, kind of grayish brown. All of these years going down to see her dad, never really noticed the big fluffy ferns. Where did they come from? So I did what we modern Americans do under such circumstances. I consulted the goddess. You know who I'm talking about, right? Google. Obviously, she's God. She's everywhere all the time, and she knows everything. So I asked her the question, and I found out with Google's help that these tenacious little plants are epiphytes, which is like an orchid. They live kind of on things. They don't draw from them like a, parasite. They don't draw from them like a parasite. They just kind of hang out up there, and they get all of their nutrients from the wind and the water and the sun. They don't bother the trees at all. They get everything that they need. The scientific name for these little critters is Pleopeltis polypodioides, and they are native to the Deep South. They are known as the resurrection fern. Ordinary plants can only lose about 10% of their moisture before they die. These little critters can lose up to 97% of their moisture and come right back. 97%. They curl in on themselves, bottom side up, and become very small and dry and tiny. So if you look in this jar, there's one that's all dried up and one that's a little dried up because it was much fluffier yesterday when I put it in the jar. But you can see kind of that in the example right here. And so the reason that I'm talking about that is because I think human beings are kind of like that too. I think for us, the most essential thing is not water, but love. Without love, we shrivel up, we curl up, we dry up, we become less colorful and fragile, smaller versions of ourselves. Human beings are designed to need each other. The ferns require sun and wind and air and moisture. We require attention, connection, feeling understood, and expressing ourselves to one another. I think it matters most how we are with one another and who we are in relationship to each other. And sometimes there are ways that connection with other people can be difficult or complex. Sometimes we reject people. Just looking at somebody, we might put them in a category. And I know this is like a common theme for me. I talk about this every time, right? But differences could be income or religion or color, ability, age, any number of things that we allow to divide us. In the LGBTQ community, it's not uncommon for people to lose their parents or their children, not to death, but to the disconnection of not understanding. I had a friend whose connection to her parent was forever changed when she came out to them as gay. She later came out as transgender as well, and her parent never knew how much she is greatly beloved by an entire community. They didn't get to see her courage or her daring, her fashion sense or her great jokes. They never saw her in a dress and killer boots last year at Pride, hugging everyone that they saw. They missed out because they no longer have a close relationship. The tragedy here is that when people come out, they are expressing their true orientation or gender identity or whatever it is they're telling you that you didn't know about them before. And it was a secret that they held inside, kind of like when the fern is all closed up. They open that fern a little to tell us who they are. And it's a risk to share that secret. Another way it can be complex, sometimes we get hurt or wounded early in life, and we bring those feelings and ideas along with us into our relationships as we get older. That's what we call baggage, right? So unless we turn back and look at that damage and face it and deal with it, we can keep re-experiencing that hurt and also hurting people we love, not out of malice, but kind of an unconscious dragging behind us. For example, if your mother yelled at you about taking out the trash, and then maybe as an adult, you don't take it out when your spouse nags you a little bit. Hey, honey, would you take out the trash? Oh, I don't want to take out the trash, not the trash. And so you become resentful. And even if you think about the trash, you start getting a little irritated. And before you know it, it's always emotionally charged with taking out the trash. It becomes a big deal. And it shouldn't be. It's just the trash. Nobody knows why. It's just something that you fight about. And when you figure this out and you resolve to find another way, that's the path of growth. It takes bravery to face our stuff. It really does. But that's how we stop passing the pattern along. And another way it can be complex, sometimes we make mistakes. We break our vows. We cause people pain, even when we didn't mean to. We can get discouraged, have disagreements with people. We can't see a way to talk to this person. There's a battle you just can't win. So maybe you don't talk to them for a while. And that can be a valid way to deal when things have gotten just way too hard. Once in a while, we have to admit the struggle's been too much. But in the very least, we can be kind and express that and be honest with ourselves and with other people and seek healthy support. Self-love and self-respect means we have to know when being connected is healthy and when it's not healthy. So what I'm wondering here today is, when has someone been there for you? Have you ever had a mentor who saw potential in you that you didn't even see in yourself? Has anybody ever treated you with unexpected kindness or care? Have you ever done something you wished you hadn't, and you were forgiven anyway? Maybe you shared a secret, and you were granted the warmth of connection instead of being rejected. Just like the storms in New Orleans, I think, which made these plants come back to life, that surprised Tamar and I when we were down there, I think the storms of life, the storms of relationship, if we approach them with an open heart, they can help us become our fullest selves. If we handle it well, working out our differences, we can become more vibrant versions of who we are. We can learn to say, "I'm sorry." We can admit that we made a mistake. We can say, "My feelings were hurt when this happened." We can ask, "Can we try again?" We can resolve to be gentle, to speak up when we're afraid. We can begin to re-water ourselves and each other. So that way we're more likely to flourish like the ferns. We are so beautiful when we are striving to stay connected in the face of difficulty, when we risk to stretch and grow, when we help others to reach their full potential. I think love makes us uncurl. And then we become vibrantly green where once we were curled up in gray. I think it's the storms of life that truly help us shine. So, in your own life, what unexpected turns has life taken you on? Maybe something that seemed like the end of the world at the time. But now, if you look back on it, you can see a burst of tremendous growth. I'm going to leave y'all with a story. A little girl went to visit her grandmother, who lived very far away, and she proudly told her, "I want to be very successful when I grow up. Can you tell me how to do that?" The grandmother nodded, took her by the hand, and they went to a plant nursery. And there the two of them chose and purchased 2 small trees. They returned to the grandmother's home, and they planted one of them in the backyard. The other little tree they placed in a pot to be kept indoors. The grandmother said, "Which one do you think will be the most successful?" The child thought for a moment, and she said, "Well, the indoor tree. It's protected and safe, while the outdoor one has to cope with wind and storms and drought." The grandmother smiled, and she said, "We'll see." The granddaughter went back to her home far away, and the grandmother carefully tended to both plants. The little girl grew up. She became busy with teenage interests, kind of forgot about the trees. And then one day she came back to visit. She told her grandmother, "You never really answered my question from when I was little. How do I become successful when I grow up?" The grandmother showed the teenager the indoor tree, and then she took her outside to look at the towering tree outside. "Which one is doing better?" the grandmother said. "Well, the outside one, but that doesn't make sense. It has to cope with many more challenges than the inside one." The grandmother smiled. "Yes, but the risk of dealing with challenges has been worth it for this tree, as it has the freedom to spread its roots wider, and its leaves go towards the heavens. My darling, remember this, and you will be successful. If you choose the safe option all of your life, you'll never reach your fullest potential. But if you're willing to face conflict with other people, to seek understanding and risk opening your heart, the sky is the limit. The young woman looked up at the tall tree. She took a deep breath and nodded her head because she knew she was right. I think that might be true for all of us. If we choose the safety of not reaching out, not letting anyone in, there's a smaller version of us that results. Kind of an isolated life. But if you have the courage and capacity to throw yourself out there and live in the elements, if you give yourself the greatest opportunity to let people in and to reach out to other people, the universe created trees to grow outside. And people are created to live lives of connection and closeness. So where are you planted? Is your fern closed off, or is it green and blooming wildly? How can we be more intimately connected and deeply nurturing of each other? May we each find our own wildness. Amen, and blessed be.
Thanks for listening to the UUC of Tupelo's podcast. You can find us at uuctupeloms.org, on Facebook by searching for UUC Tupelo, or contact us by email at uuctupelocom@gmail.com. That's uuctupelocom@gmail.com. The UUC of Tupelo is a welcoming congregation who accept all people, regardless of creed, color, national origin, gender, or gender identity. We hope you have enjoyed this podcast, and as you head on your way, go in peace, believe in peace, create peace.